Hi, guys, and welcome to another 7-minute lecture. Is China breeding mutant soldiers? Should we use mutant soldiers in warfare? I know that's a bit of a bleak way to put it, but it's a real issue that's become a point of discussion in the real world. So we need to look at it as well. Let me clarify firstly that when I say mutant, I'm talking about genetic engineering of some kind. There are many ways in which super soldiers can be created. This is simply one of them. I did an episode on the the trend of using exoskeletons in warfare. That was an example of how you can boost the abilities of a soldier. In some video down the line, I might touch on drugs for enhancement or body implants and things like that. So those are all ways in which you can boost the capabilities of a soldier. This video is about genetic engineering. About 2 years ago, researchers in the Jamestown Foundation claimed that China was starting to get interested in many of these technological sort of boosts, and that genetic engineering was one of them. The researchers said that there's a lot of indication that the Chinese army is now looking at this as one of their major enhancement tools for future soldiers. We've also got to remember that 2 years ago, China also became the first country where actual human beings were used for genetic engineering, right? Where this Chinese doctor called Dr. He Jiankui edited the genes of twin babies to make them immune to HIV. So this process of using our knowledge of genetics to alter the human species, that's already begun as of 2019. And considering that this was done in China, one can only assume that the other steps are not that far away. Of course, the Chinese government declared what Dr. He did to be an illegal act later on, but this was only after there was widespread backlash both locally and internationally against it. Until that backlash, the Chinese government had not banned this practice or arrested that doctor at all. So one could argue that even if China denounces these methods publicly, their private intentions seem a lot more dubious. If we rewind even a few years before this, if we go back to 2015, which is once again not a long time in the past, China back then had successfully created hypermuscular dogs. As in, by editing the genes in the embryo, China was able to create dogs with twice the muscle mass of regular dogs. So these were beagles, and they had twice the muscle mass of normal beagles, which made them nearly twice as fast and strong as regular beagles as well. And they were being produced to serve hunting, police, and military applications. So it's not even like they're claiming to be breeding these genetically enhanced dogs for novelty or aesthetics or whatever. No, they aren't even bothered with that illusion. They've pretty much openly stated that these dogs will be used for tasks like policing and military combat, which involve the use of force, the use of state violence. So let's quickly end it by looking at some of their ethical complications as well. Firstly, it would be hard for us to ban genetic research in general. A blanket ban would be hard because genetic research does have the potential to save tens of millions of lives all over the world. Kids are born with genetic diseases all the time. Many people around the world suffer from basic genetic diseases that make their lives a living hell. There are things we can do with immunity, nerve control, regeneration, all kinds of things that would raise the quality of a human being's life tremendously if we harness this technology in a positive way. So nullifying the technological trend entirely might be an impossible task, given how many health-based applications are there. The second ethical dilemma is that, especially in the context of these embryos that are turned into soldiers, the people who undergo this would have no consent in the procedure. It would be done when they are embryos. Let's say China transfers the technology of hypermuscular dogs to now breed hypermuscular human beings who are faster and stronger than normal human beings. You would have no say in being born this way. These would be physical traits that you have, and your career path, your entire life's destiny has already been decided by the government when you were chosen. Your embryo, rather, was chosen for this project. These people will belong to some new type of warrior caste, warrior subspecies within the human species that will always be considered different. Finally, we would have to look at the permanence of these supposed enhancements as well as a moral problem. This wouldn't be like putting on a suit of armor or even consuming a drug, where the effect lasts only until you're wearing the armor or the drug is flowing through your bloodstream. Here, any changes made to you would be permanent. It would simply be the way you are, the way your body is structured through your DNA. There would be no way for you to switch off, so to speak, and just be a regular person. So, how would we reconcile these developments and these dilemmas with human rights? And even if we declare that this practice would be against human rights, where would we then go when the world plunges into this scenario where powers with no respect for human rights would have a major technological advantage over the countries that do? Because clearly, if we were to take a stand against this under the sort of pretext that it goes against human rights, all we would get is a bunch of countries with no respect for human rights enhancing their soldiers this way, while the countries who do would be cut off from that option entirely. The USA and Russia, who are the other two major powers, both have a much more conservative position on this than China. Even though there are indications that the Americans are heavily involved in genetic engineering research, it's certainly not to the brazen level that we've seen with the Chinese. The Russians have taken an even more vocal stand against it, with Vladimir Putin even going on record to say that this is an even bigger threat to humanity's existence than nuclear weapons. Of course, they could all be lying and they could all be working on these things in private, but even if that was true, at least they are bothering to be private, at least they are bothering to lie about it, unlike Beijing. So tell me where you guys stand on this. What do you think about the use of genetically engineered embryos that could someday work for us as soldiers? Do you think it's too close to playing God, or do you think it's a legitimate path forward? And what do you think about China's open approach to this entire thing? I'd like to know. And speaking of liking, if you like content like this, please don't forget to share and subscribe. Thank you, take care, and I'll see you soon.